Okay, so here we are in the 1v1 versus Matzestinkt in the Club Conference Championship. I have to say this might be a little bit of a longer video. I don't know. I just have a number of things that are kind of sticking on my head. But before I go into all of that, let's just review what he did with his German play since the last term, which you can kind of see what he did. I don't necessarily agree with what his moves were actually, which is kind of odd because normally I'm right on par with what he's doing. But he did an 11 infantry two artillery build back in Italy and Germany. It's not really a surprise. Took Baltic back, traded West Russia, and traded Karelia, and that was actually the surprise. Oh, and they attacked Egypt, which I wasn't surprised by attacking Egypt. I expected that. That's why I set up the counterattack. His counter to my counter is going to be tough, so I got to be thinking about that. We're going to talk about this theater, so I'm going to break it down into different theaters and just talk about the different areas with how it is right now. These early rounds, whether it's KJF or KGF, it doesn't really matter. The first 7 rounds in my book really determine the game most of the time. Not all the time, but most of the time. The first 7 rounds, and especially the first 3 to 4 rounds, are very detrimental in determining what's going to happen. So, I said I was a little bit surprised by his move. I thought for sure he'd send his tanks up there and take Karelia with the stack there and take West Russia, where all I would have had was, this 5-unit attack back, and with 1 or 2 infantry surviving, it wouldn't have been worth it for me to attack it. So I thought he would bail on Ukraine and stack Karelia. Why? Because both results, I'm still going to be able to stack Caucasus, so he's not going to be able to take this on G4. Either way, we're going to be trading West Russia, so there's no advantage one way or the other. And if he'd gone up here, I would have traded Ukraine potentially, whereas now I'm going to trade Karelia. So the IPC value of territories going back and forth is going to be the same regardless. But had he gone up here, he would have got himself 2 production spots at the front line. Whereas now he still has, even next turn, he's going to have to build all units on the back line. And timing, if you watch KJFs especially, if you watch my KJFs, I'm all about timing. Timing is more important even than IPC values of units lost in a battle, per se, or the economic game, at least in these early rounds of the KJF. When you start getting into the mid and late game, then it becomes a much more critical thing. The economy becomes a big thing. I don't want to dismiss economy. Economy is huge in this game. But early rounds of KJF to me is all about timing. So generally, as Axis on a KJF, you probably heard me say it, but I'm going to repeat it for those that have heard it. You want to get to West Russia. You really want to try to be able to stack West Russia on G5. And then stacking West Russia on G5 allows you to Caucasus on G6. You build units in Caucasus, you build for artillery and then your fighters and whatnot on G7 and get a fairly solid timing of G8 on Moscow. That's the timings that I look for when I'm playing Germany in a KJF. Is I'm trying to shoot for a G8 Moscow. So, as allies, anything that I push beyond G8 is considered success for me. I consider that's successful, good stop, hooray, moving on. Now, most players, Axis players I face, all I'm worried about is Germany. Matzestinkt, he's definitely, again, he's a better player, he's a smarter player, and he's going to make Japan relevant in this as well, because the really good players will time a 1-2, just kind of a take out the AA guns and then let Germany hit in kind of thing, and so you just definitely have to be careful with Japan in a KJF against a very good Japan. But this right here, so first thing we look at, G4, do we have West Russia dead zone? Well, we're going to kill these 2 guys. So he'll have 18, 19 units he can push in. We've got 18, 20. These guys pull back 24, 27, 32, 34, plus our build. So, yeah, we got it. We got it dead zoned. So Russia's got 27 this turn, so we're going to be able to build nine guys on Russia 4. And then I'll be pessimistic and say 7 guys. I'm not even playing. I think it will probably be closer to 8 guys. Yeah, but I'm going to say 7 guys. 16 guys that I can build between R4 and R5 before Germany tries to go in here. So 16 guys, assuming after this next R turn I don't use any R to trade. I'm going to use UK hopefully to kill this guy. But we'll say we have to use 3 Russians. So we'll take those 3 out of the count. So like I said, we're going to build 16, 17, 18, 23, 29, 33. I'm going to take these out. 29. I'm going to say Japan just goes in and kills them for whatever reason. 29, 39, 41, 43. So I'm going to have at least 43 units targeting West Russia on Russia 6. Built on through Russia 5. So through Russia 5 turn. So we're targeting this on Russia 6. So we're targeting the G5. What can he bring in on G5, and what am I going to have? So I'm going to have about 43 units, possibly more, targeting West Russia against his G5. So what can he bring in here on G5? Well, he's not going to be building any units here on G4. So it's all going to have to be units from here. These guys can go 4, 5. These guys can go 4, 5. These guys can go 4, 5. These guys are not going to make it. So it's all his units he has on the board through here. So 2, 4, 6, 7, 12, 13, 16, 17, 31, 32. So 32 units, my 43 plus units. Plus I might even build, I may build some more artilleries in there. We've got, a good chunk of artilleries. I feel like we're going to have that dead zone on G5 as well. That he's not going to go there on G5 either. I don't know if that extra 2 more units built in Karelia would make a difference or not. Certainly, because of my play and really putting it off that he didn't get this he didn't keep it G1 or G2. The 4 to 6 units that he's lost from not being able to produce up here certainly is relevant. So, anyways, that's what we've done to try to disturb the timing as Russia. Of course, in the Atlantic here, with his positioning, he's got the 1 fighter that can hit C-Zone 8. This guy can't, and he's got his 3 fighters here cannot. So we got an easy 8 take, France take without having to build any new boats or anything. He did move his battleship back into here, which at some point might become problematic. I am just not worrying about it. If you've seen me play these KJFs, I do not worry about the battleship as much as I used to. I mean, I like to kill it, don't get me wrong. I want to kill it. But I just am not as worried about it as I used to be. So we're going to be bringing the sub around, and we're still going to have our bomber hanging around. And we'll see what else, how we position everything else. But, we're going to have our opportunity someday on the battleship. I am not super concerned about that without a transport there. Even with a transport, I'm not as concerned. But, I'm going to leave it there because that's going to be tempting for him to build Navy. But he also knows if he builds Navy, that's really going to stall out his land front here. For every IPC he spends on building Navy, he's going to be in trouble going this way. So here, let's talk about this Africa theater here. I could use my transport to come hit there, but obviously he's got his fighters here, so if I don't move my fleet, I'm going to sacrifice my transport this turn if I do that. But I don't want to move my fleet because I'm hoping, which we'll talk about this more, but I'm hoping US 3 comes to C-Zone 48 and the Brits can come help support them defensively on UK 4. So I don't want to move them out of range of the Philippines. If I go to 34, I'll be out of range. So I don't really want to move the rest of my fleet, so I'd be sacrificing my transport if I do it this turn. What I can do is I can do my infantry tank, and I've got 1, 2, 3 fighters. These fighters have nothing better to do. We're not attacking anything else. So I got 5 units to hit his 2. I want to use my 1 infantry and my bomber to kill his West Russia guy to conserve Russian units where I can. And then I do want to land 1 fighter and 2 of my infantry into here to stack versus... So I have 8 infantry and a fighter versus his 4, 2, 1, 1, and a bomber that could hit there. I'm satisfied with that setup. So if I hit him, I really need to take it. I mean, I don't have to take it. So if I don't, let's say I hit it and then he hits, and I either take out my tank or I take out a fighter. If I take out the fighter, I can take Egypt. Which will I do? I haven't really decided, because if, let's say I just go ahead and take out the tank, I kill his 2 units, but I don't take the territory my fighter lives, which are, I love my UK fighters in a KJF. That'll give him the opportunity where he'll be able to blitz through this way, and then 1 infantry moving in. Well, I plan on, my backup is that I'll be able to use this transport next turn. I don't really care about this transport living. I can sacrifice him next turn potentially, or I've got a feeling Japan could come down and put pressure on this little mini fleet, and I'll have the backup anyways. So I can save my transport a turn, and I can hit the tank then, and then I'd have an infantry or 2 versus his 1 infantry still alive, and we'll get it cleaned up. Meanwhile, the U.S. will march back. He'll even have to decide, do I hit Egypt or do I hit, what is this, Algeria, Libya, Algeria, and so forth. So I do think, his fighters down here are annoying because it is making him a very powerful attack, and he is dwindling my units, but I think I feel fairly comfortable there. Depending on I haven't decided what I'm doing on U.S. I might build myself a transport here next turn, ready to start shucking some green guys down here just in case, if I don't like how things are shaping up. So then that brings us to our India fleet here. So like I said, I really want to have him just sit tight in C-Zone 35 for a turn. But what does that mean? So we did push a sub back, so we don't have to worry about that. But he does have these 2 fighters that are threatening C-Zone 35, as well as these 4 fighters can go 1, 2, 3, and then land back on the carriers, as well as his bomber 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So he's got 6 fighters and a bomber targeting this, and that's, this is 5 units, not an ideal setup there. Not what I really want to have there. So I need to build some more defenses in here. Okay, so my intention is to go ahead and land my fighter in here. I could build a carrier fighter for 24. I could bring that fighter here and just let Russia deal with West Russia on their own. But I really would rather the bomber snipe out that West Russia guy and use an infantry to protect the bomber, which means I need the fighter here to defend from Japan. So I could do a carrier fighter, and I'd have 2 carriers, 3 fighters, cruiser, destroyer versus that. And so that would be, 5, 6, 7 versus a 7 would be okay. And it would be giving me another fighter on the board. But I'm leaning towards a battleship because that makes it even harder to strafe, because anytime Japan's looking at it, they got to worry about the whole fact that if they try to hit it, and this is going to become relevant in later rounds, I believe, does he want to hit it and risk the battleship living? So I am going to build a battleship. I know, I just don't do it. I highly don't advise buying battleships typically, but I'm going to buy a battleship and put it here instead of a carrier. It's costing me 1 fighter on the ground, which disappoints me some, but so be it. And then this theater here, I'm not happy with my U.S. move after all. I really, on hindsight, I feel like I should have came to 59. I should have pulled out the calculators, and this is when I'm getting a little bit lazy on my game. I'm not pulling out my calculators all over the place like I normally do against a high-quality opponent like this. I'm being lazy. I shouldn't be. I feel comfortable with where I'm at in the game, and that's where I get myself in trouble a lot of times. I'll probably end up paying for it. But even with these two fighters and my whole stack here that can attack C-Zone 60, if he builds a carrier, flies these fighters back up there, a sub and 2 destroyers, which would max out his 36 IPC, then it's not a very good battle for me to take. So he could just sit here and block my troops from my fleet from making it to the Philippines and joining up with my UK fleet like I want to. So, that being said, it's a close enough battle that I might just take it, move the UK fleet up afterwards, and bring these guys up. Not sure. Just saying I might. It's a possibility. We could potentially do. But that's if I'm him, I'm probably going to do that build because it stalls me from getting to the Philippines, or I have to take a very risky battle in doing so. One that I don't really want to take. So I'm hopeful he doesn't do that. It would be tight, and he may not want to do that. He may want to build 6 subs or 5 subs and some ground, and move. I mean, he's going to want to try to get these transports over and get some more ground units onto the mainland as well. So I'm hopeful he doesn't do that, and then he just puts a destroyer there and builds over here, and then I can plow through it and get to the Philippines and meet up. That's what I want to see. But anyways, I'm a little disappointed. I probably should have gone here. I just assumed I had C-Zone 60 dead zoned. And, even when I put my battleship here, I kind of will. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So if I attack and then I bring these guys forward and take this with the U.S. on the US 3, if he does that build, then UK 4, I'd still be able to do the 1, 2, 2 fighter and a bomber attack on whatever lives there, and then the bomber can land here. So we may do that 1, 2 if he does stay there. Anyways, there's all the different theaters. That's a lot of talking. I'm going to buy an infantry and a tank for India. I don't need to buy anything over here in the Atlantic this turn. Because of his fighter placements. He'll probably push me back next turn, or I'll have to build some boats in here next turn, but we are building a battleship with those. 'Cause who doesn't want to say they built a battleship? It's always fun when you get to say, I built a battleship. Because it's just, economically and battle-wise, it's not the best thing. But I also like the fact that the reason I liked it over a carrier fighter is that it does let me build 2 ground units versus only being able to build 1 ground unit if I did the carrier fighter. As well as that psychological, it's going to be harder to strafe my little mini fleet, especially if I decide to eventually move them up through the Med, which hopefully at some point I will. So this one, initially my intention was to take him, but this guy's got nobody and he can't go anywhere, any place, so we'll leave that guy for him to pick up, and we'll just come down here and pick up a guy from here to take it, and that's going to still leave me, 4 ground units for my 2 transports, so we're all good. He can only have, one thing I didn't think about is I don't think I need both my fighters here. We can just go with 1 fighter here and get the other UK fighter to the center of the board. I love getting my fighters to the center of the board because he's only got the 1 fighter, right? That can hit these guys 1, 2, 3, 4. Them. The battleship can't. I gotta watch out my counting my battleship. Good gracious, that last team game. So I can send 1 fighter on into Moscow this turn. That'll be nice. And just have a carrier and 1 fighter here with fighters to go first against his threat. I'll take that. Is that all the attacks? I believe that is all the attacks. Just to clarify, the reason I like getting a fighter over there now, when the fighters are in C-Zone 8, they can't reach Moscow. So next turn, I won't be able to get them over there. Whereas if I need him back to build the fleet, I can move the fleet to 6 or 7 or 3, and I can bring him back onto it then. So that's why I want to go ahead and move one fighter over this turn. That way I've got more protection here, and I don't get him stuck here, and he can't get back on UK4. Let's get a nice clean kill here. 2 hits right off the bat, please. Boom, boom. All right, good. Whiff, whiff, whiff. All right, 1 hit. I'll take it. And so, like I said, yes, he'll be able to go there. I'm going to move my green guys up here, so he'll have to choose. Does he split? Does he just go and kill here and have a guy survive? But I'll still have my transport that can come back and clean up. Let's kill this guy. I enjoy taking the territory, but definitely let's just kill the guy. Good. Nice. So some good money for UK this turn is going to really help that beef up that Atlantic fleet, and as well as beef up our India defenses next turn, because we got 8 bonus monies in there, so that's nice. That's going to conserve us a Russian dude, so that's nice. Oops, not you, you. I do need to make sure I'm submerged and fighters before carriers on my defense profile. It is a 2, right? Okay. I thought that was a 3. I was like, did I goof that up? All right. So, like I said, I feel good about this. He's running low on units. We'll clean Africa up. You know, he'd have to build a transport to put more pressure here, and that'll just take pressure off of Russia. So I feel decent about this. And the other thing, too, he won't be able to leave these guys. So the battleship, he won't be able to leave here, because I'll have a fighter here that can go 1, 2, 3 and hit. I will have fighter here that can go 1, 2, 3, 4 and land on there, and I'm going to have my sub. So we'll have 2 fighters and a sub and a bomber that can all target him here. If he comes into here, we'll have the sub, the bomber, and 2 fighters that can target him off the planes. Actually 3, because we'll have this guy. If he comes up here, that's probably his one last safe zone. We'll have the sub, we'll have a fighter and a bomber. So that's his safest zone, but we potentially could take care of the battleship, you know, anywhere he goes. I guess I didn't count coming out this way, right? If he comes back this way, that could be problematic with my fighter going up here. I would only have carrier sub fighter, and that's a little bit scary. Ooh. Draddle fraddle. I may want to bring that fighter back to C-Zone 8, that is. Or I could put him in Iceland. Iceland at least is still in range. And could go 1, 2, 3, 4. It could still hit the battleship if he came out here. If the battleship came here, we'd have the sub, the fighter on the carrier, and then the bomber comes back in play, because the bomber's in India. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the bomber's back in play there. It's just here that gets scary. So yeah, let's move that fighter. Instead of going to Moscow, let's move him to Iceland. That keeps him in range, at least of Moscow. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we can get to the center of the board next turn and not have to take 2 turns to get there. But it also leaves him able to put pressure. 1, 2, 3, just double checking 4 here. So we'd still have 2 fighters, a sub, and a carrier that could hit there. C-zone 14, we'll have the sub, fighter, carrier, bomber. C-zone 15, like we covered, we will have 1 fighter, 2 fighter, bomber, sub. 17, 3 fighters, bomber, sub. 16, 1 fighter, 1 sub, 1 bomber. So there we go. So that we almost let that battleship slip our nooses here. If we move that fighter in, I mean, I'd have taken, I suppose, the sub carrier fighter attack, but I don't really want to take something like that. All right, I think we are better off that way. And again, I'm not in C-Zone 8 because C-Zone 8 would only be able to reach one of these 2, and he's going to have these dead zone next turn. Iceland can get all the way into Moscow next turn if I need him. All right. Sorry for the longer turn, but I think there's a lot to cover there. A lot of just thinking, you know, what all the different zones and battles that we're going through. You know what? I need to check this defense profile while I'm talking about it. We want fighter before carrier and submerge on. Drop that big boy. I'm telling you, who doesn't love placing a battleship in the water? Especially if you're playing it on the actual board game and you get to take that big old plastic boat and put it in there. All right, here we go. I know it doesn't mean much, but I know I don't show this very often, so I'm just going to go ahead and show it. You know, U.S. is going to have 1 more production than, you know, 1 artillery unit worth 4 IPC. So our attack power is going to be fairly close still. This is going to go down. He's not going to have as much anymore now that we shut off Caucasus. So as you can see, he's down to 34, but he'll get Russia back and West Russia, so he'll get those. That'll get him back up to 42 at least there. But hopefully we're going to start chewing away on this in the upcoming rounds. All right, there we go.